Hey, what's going on, everyone? My name is John. I'm a filmmaker slash creator and your host for Make Limited Podcast, where we talk about how to change our circumstances when life happens. In other words, when life gives you lemons, make lemonade. Today, we are talking about it's okay to say you don't know. Welcome everyone to Make Limited Podcast. This is your host John. I'm so excited that you're here today because I have something special for you, just prepared, just right. We're talking today about it's okay to say you don't know. Now, this is something that I believe will help you tremendously in your life, from one, being embarrassed, two, trying to make things up on the spot, and three, just making yourself look foolish. Okay? Now, let's get into today's conversation on it's okay to say you don't know. Okay, so have you ever in a time been asked a question and you don't know the answer to it? I'm pretty sure we can all relate in some sort of way, whether we've been asked a question by a teacher, by an authority, maybe by your parents, maybe by a sibling, and especially to a young toddler or something who's asking a question about certain morals or values, right? Should they, talk to someone who everyone doesn't like or something like that, right? Simple metaphors, phrases, whatever you want to call it. So this is just something to think about. Have you ever been asked something that you didn't know? Now, think about it for just a second and let's continue. Throughout my time of life, I have been asked many times, many questions, and even today, not face-to-face, asked the question, but I've seen in interviews, I've seen on social media, questions that have been asked, that have been answered, and sometimes it sounds a little too fishy, right? And everyone goes through it. Everyone asks the question. Even myself, I've asked questions, and sometimes the answer sounds too good to be true, or it just doesn't make any sense. We've all been there. Okay? Again, let me remind you of what we're talking about today. It's okay to say, I don't know. And the reason why I'm saying this is because there has been a misconception in a particular area, which is my example for today, that I want to share with you. And it's simple. It's getting things in context. That's why when I talk about a certain word, I always give you the definition, because I want to be in the right context of the word that I'm talking about. Okay? And give the definition that I believe relates more to the subject. Now, out of context can be something that we all struggle with, and is one of the main reasons why I immensely encourage for people to read, people to study, people to research, and create that knowledge so that they can understand things and in turn gain wisdom. That's what the most important thing that I say in my podcast, if you get anything, is get knowledge, wisdom, and understanding, because they're going to guide you in your life wherever you go. They're going to be huge guide paths that are going to direct you to where you need to be in a certain area of your life that you're in. So again, it's very, very important to know when things are out of context, meaning knowing, understanding what you're saying. Why is this important? Because with this simple topic of it's okay to say you don't know, there has been so much pride, so much ignorance, so much, how can I say, misleading conversations or advice that have literally taken people from their path into a destructive one. I've seen it to the point that a person is following a certain path, and because of one leadership move, because of one thing they didn't see correctly that was out of context, didn't know the whole story, messed up someone's life. I've seen it, and I've seen it over and over again. I've seen it done through business partnerships, to someone who is not significant to their business, but it's just a partner at the time. I've seen it where leadership has turned to the wrong context in the argument, where the wrong story is told so that they can create an issue that needs to be solved, a problem that needs to be solved, right? And I've seen it so many times, and because it's been in an area that it's close to me, I've been able, and it's one of the main reasons why I say guard your heart, because it's very important to guard your heart, because it's something that you have, and if once it's damaged, and it's really hard to repair. It's a process to repair. So that's why I say guard your heart. And I talk about this in the last podcast that we talked about, and it's really important to understand that it's okay to say, I don't know. Okay? Like I said before, I've seen it several times, personally in my own life, secondly, as a third party, and so on and so forth. And it's devastating what this can do. It's devastating because it creates a lot of disturbance within people. And it's crazy. It's crazy where it happens. It happens in the places, and we see it everywhere. You've probably seen it in your own job when somebody lies about the story that somebody didn't do, and that person gets fired for something that they have no clue, but they were just let go, right? And this whole big argument happens. You've seen it in airplanes, and I'm sure in social media, when people are blaming someone because of the way they look, and they don't know the full content of the story, right? Again, this happens when we see people. One of the biggest, I believe, quotes is, don't judge a book by its cover, correct? And as humans, we tend to do this because of things that we feel and we don't complete, right? Whether you feel tired, maybe you just didn't completely study or really put 100% into what you were researching, and you just got from 3-4 articles and then you were done, right? Instead of getting the whole picture, which is very important. One of the things that we're going to talk about towards the end of the resolution of it's okay to say, I don't know, which is what we're talking about. Now, and this goes to saying yes as well. Sometimes you need to say no. And it's okay to say no. I know it sounds horrible and you think people are going to be so mean to you. And maybe 50% of the chance is true. And then 50% of it is not. But if you can't do something, if you can't answer someone, it's okay to say you don't know. It's okay to say no. And I've seen it over and over again, especially when it comes into leadership and you're questioning them on something that they believe, right? And you expect for them to have all the answers, and sometimes they need to pull out answers from different contents that they've read or studied and don't have the complete answer for you, but right in there on the spot they have to answer. And and this happens a lot, especially when you're looking at debates, when you're looking at debates and arguments, and you see people say something in one point and then another point say the opposite. Okay? And, a huge one is when people fluctuate on what they believe. And that's why one of the things that I talk about in leadership, in one of my podcasts, we talk about what is a leader. And, what is that you should be looking into a leader, and that is a non-changing belief. Because when a leader starts changing their belief, now growth and belief are two different things, right? Because one, we're growing, and two, we're changing. Okay? So, I'm sorry. And the second one is the negligence of something that is argued that they say they didn't say, but they did, right? And we've seen it. We've seen it before, and we can relate to this. And so it's okay to say you don't know. Why? Because it keeps you from the responsibility of something that you're going to say that could be wrong, that could be misinterpreted, that could be misplaced. Now, I'm going to tell you the story that I was trying to tell you. And the story goes like this. Okay, and now I'm going to give you context from where I get mainly my most principles in life, and that is the Bible. Now, a lot of people have gone into a misconception that women should not speak in the church, right? According to what Paul says in the Bible about women not speaking. And a lot of people have actually taken that as a doctrine and a principle in their area, their belief, and apply that and do not allow women to speak in the church. And get angry when they see this happening in the church. And they are right to be so. And this is why I say this, okay, before you jump on that. This is why I say this. It's because they're right to say that because that's what they believe. But they have not complete the context of what that is, that letter that Paul's writing to the church, and I believe it's Corinthians. They don't understand the full complete story. And it's not that they don't understand, maybe they haven't studied the whole thing. There are many things that happen that people don't completely understand something, right? And that's why we need to keep on researching and studying and grow. It's very important because we learn to complete everything, and that's when understanding comes, and it's super amazing when that happens. Because we gain knowledge, and for us to gain knowledge, we need to get into the level of understanding. And the only way of understanding is to keep on researching, keep on learning, keep on growing. That's the process. And so a lot of leaders have gotten this belief into their church or the area of life, and they follow it. Their followers follow it. Their congregation follow it. And they seem to be steady on that one belief. And I've seen it. I've seen it over and over again when they don't allow this. However, the full contents of this story is not that Paul was telling the people there, was telling everyone, right? Don't let women talk. But you have to understand why he was telling this to the church. Because remember, there are letters to the church that they were writing. Okay, so when he wrote this letter to the church, it's because they were having an issue with things that were happening in the church. Okay, so he had to go and address it. And now the things that were happening in the church is that, as for example, take this. They were having issues with, women speaking up when they didn't understand this. Now, if you understand the culture from that time, they set separately men to one side, women to another side, right? And the issue with that is that when you have the division, say, for example, a woman didn't understand or didn't hear quite right what they said, and they asked their neighbor, and the neighbor is like, you know what, let me pause, let me ask my husband. And they ask the husband, which is across the building, stops everything, and everyone pays attention to the one thing. And it kept happening consistently that it had become a problem. So the full context of that is not to tell, women not to speak in the church, right? Because there have been powerful women in the Bible, in the New Testament, that have done great things with the church. And so the point here is that the misconception of not fully understanding what this part of the scripture says leads you to believe that women don't have a place to talk in front of everyone, right? Thus, you create an issue. You create a problem. Women want to speak out. We want to say something. So you create a rebellion. And usually rebellions start from the young ones to the older ones, kind of like a dominoes thing, right? It leads from the young ones because the young ones are the ones that ask the questions. The older ones have lived through the process and understand how tradition is done. However, the young ones ask the question of, why does this happen? Why, and why? And I'm sure you've had toddlers, kids, adults, teens, teen adults, or just teens ask questions that they want to know the answer because they're interested on why things happen. How far is the moon? Why does the moon shine? You know? Again, how fast does the earth spin? How far are other galaxies? You know, I know those are more deep questions, but my point is sometimes when we don't know the answer, we'll make something up on the spot. You know, or we feel ashamed, or we feel like, man, we're not smart enough to answer those questions, so we make something up, right? And they start believing it, and it starts becoming out of context. And then when they learn the truth, it creates a resentment in some sense. So this is the case that happens. It builds up and becomes a problem that people cannot fix. And it's a simple solution of understanding the complete context of a story, the complete context of both sides of the story, to make a true, complete answer. And that's what's important for this today, for us to talk about. It's okay to say, I don't know. Okay? It's okay to say, I don't know. Because it's going to be something that will protect you in your life as you keep going. Okay? Super, super important. So, where do we go from here, right? How do we start learning the answers and the things that are issues to our life? Because sometimes they can become issues, or sometimes they're just things that are not fully in context to what's happening around us. And the number one thing is exactly what happens, is ask the questions. Ask the questions of what is the answer to what you're looking for. And until you don't get an answer, don't stop looking. Don't stop looking, because the point is to reach the area of understanding. That is the main point that you want in your life. When you reach that point of understanding, you are able to do things, what I like to call them, secondhand. For example, you're walking. You don't think about walking. You just do it. You're eating. You don't think about picking up the spoon so you can grab your meal. You do it automatically. It's a secondhand thing that happens. You do it automatically. And that's why understanding is such a powerful thing, because knowledge is an accumulation of information that you learn from, which gives you knowledge. And with that knowledge, even though you have the knowledge, you can go to school for 4, 8, 10 years and gain all this knowledge, but if you don't fully understand, you're not going to be effective on what you're doing. That's why we admire this kind of movies that people are super effective on. Take, for example, The Good Doctor, right? It's super awesome because, he can figure out things that other people can't. And the reason why is because he understands what he studied. He understands what he reads. He puts things together in his head. And he's able to come out with solutions that no one does. Take, for example, the other show, House, which is another doctor movie, which is one of my favorite doctor movies because there's so much drama, so much storytelling that is just super amazing of how they connect it. So when you get, say, for example, Dr. House, he's so brilliant in what he does because he understands what he has learned, and he uses it not only through experiences, not only through his own experiences in his own life, but he's able to actually apply them and understand them clearly. And that's pretty much to the whole show, that he is trying to teach his proteges how to do, right? And so the whole process is amazing, and you got to watch the show yourself because it's just amazing. It's an awesome show. I was so sad when it finished. So my point in this, when it's okay to say I don't know, is to protect you. Protect you from your ego, protect you from things that you don't need to say if you don't know. And it's that simple. The best result, the best answer you can give somebody is, I don't know that answer, but I will get back to you on that. That's a good point. Which reveals that you honestly are sincere, that you are thankful that they brought up something that is challenging, that challenges you, and you really don't know everything. So you give yourself a human sense, and they relate to you because they're like, you know what? I don't know this answer. He doesn't know. It's a connection that you create by giving them that it's a great answer. Let me get back to you on that, and get back to the person on that. It's very important because you never know how it can transform someone's life by someone giving an answer. Super important. So when it comes to questions that you don't know, it's okay to say, I don't know. And I hope that this has inspired you and motivated you to be better humans, and we'll talk to you next time. Peace. Alright, you have reached the end of today's podcast. Thank you so much for stopping by and listening to Make Limited Podcast. We appreciate every moment that you listen to us because we know that it is elevating your life. It is motivating you and inspiring you to be a better human here at Make Limited Podcast. Thank you so much for joining us once again. Today we talked about it's okay to say I don't know, and it's going to help you in your life. It's going to help you improve your life. Not only that, but answer questions even to your own self that you probably never thought about thinking until someone else is bold enough to ask. So that is the best thing that you can do in your life that will help you just go the next level. So once again, if you want to contact us and let us know how Make Lemonade is inspiring and motivating your life to become better humans, you can reach us at makelimitedpodcast.com or on our Facebook page at Make Limited Podcast. And you can send us messages there on what Make Lemonade has been inspiring you in and motivating you in, because we would love to share your story. So once again, thank you so much for tuning in, and we'll be seeing you next time. Peace.